Good evening, New York Giants football fans of the NFL, and even in college. Thanks for tuning in to Coach Ed's Amazing World of Sports. I'm the host, Coach Ed, and I'm looking forward to talking a little bit of football, especially about the New York Football Giants. I'm going to be talking about their upcoming opponent, Week 1 against the Tennessee Titans. The big focus of this video will be on how to stop Derrick Henry or limit Derrick Henry from his rushing attacks, having one of those explosive games where he's just manhandling and dominating the defense. Now, before I get into that, thank you guys for tuning in. If you're not already a subscriber, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notifications. So this way you can get notified whenever I post new content. Share on all your social media platforms, and like today's video. It will really help me get my program out there and grow it across all spectrums and all platforms. Again, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. So now getting into the ways that we can look for the defense to limit or stop Derrick Henry. Let me bring up my notes. All right. Some of the ways that the defense can attack Derrick Henry is, first and foremost, maintain your gap integrity. And what do I mean by that? Each defender is responsible up front between the front line and the linebackers, unless you bring an extra safety into the box, is responsible for an area in between the defensive line and also, the offensive line and also the tight end. So you are responsible for maintaining that gap. You also, if your teammates do their job, it limits the offense from widening the gap and leaving you with a bigger window to try and stop the running back. So you want to maintain that and not get pushed out of your gap and into another gap. So that way it also widens and the defense and also widens the gap. So number one, you want to make sure you maintain that gap integrity. Number two, defensive penetration. You want to get on the other side of the football. So if you can penetrate, you're going to force Henry to move laterally and not quickly get upfield, as we've always seen him get upfield and get into the second and third level and attacking linebackers and defensive backs and not have to deal with the defensive line up front. Now, if you're getting on the offensive side of the ball, then you limit Derrick Henry's ability to get upfield, and he moves laterally and he's easier to tackle. Also, you want to attack his legs. And what do I mean by that? Instead of always trying to tackle him high, as you've seen a lot of defensive backs who get manhandled with his devastating stiff arm, you want to get to his legs. And you want to get down to his lower portion of his legs, to the knees down all the way to the ankles. Most running backs are not effective that way. You know, it's hard for them to, especially if somebody's on your ankles, to run with someone's on your ankles. You know, yes, you can break a tackle if a guy takes the wrong angle and hits you in the thighs, and a la the old Earl Campbell, but most running backs, they also go down that way. But if you attack the knees all the way down to the ankles, you should do a good job. If worst case scenario, hold on, and then you will actually get your teammates there to help you out with the tackles. Also, whenever possible, you want to get into what's known as a bear or a tight front. Now, what those formations do, let me bring up my examples for you guys. Okay, this is an example of a tight front. A tight front basically means that you have the nose guard. Ideally, he's in a zero technique, head up over the center. And then you have your two ends who are in what are known as a 4-eye. In football, you have the 0, which is over the center, head up over the center, 2, which is head up over the guard, 4, which is head up over the tackle. Now, when you hear eye, that basically means inside. So if you hear 2-eye, the defender is going to be lined up on the inside shoulder of the guard. 4-eye means that he's on the inside shoulder of the tackle. If you ever see any formations and you see the defensively, they have shades. When you see the shades, that's basically telling you which side the defender is supposed to be aligned up on. Now, ideally, like I said, I've seen and I've taught tight formations where you're in a zero technique, because what that does is it forces the center, the running back, and the guards to try and identify who is responsible, because each one, going back to gap integrity, as you see here, is responsible for a gap. Now, you can shade. I have seen that. That just identifies who is responsible, unless you're going to play games where the nose guard crosses the center's face to be responsible for this A gap, and the will linebacker shoots into this A gap. But again, like I said, whichever way, it's perfectly fine. It's just a way of letting your team have the basic principles of who has what gap and what responsibility. And as you see in this diagram, with the six defenders, the two ends, the nose guard, the Mike, the will, and the jack. A jack linebacker is basically a rush in. Some will say rush, some will say jack, whichever is fine. But he has the outside contain. The Mike linebacker has the outside contain, while the will has this responsibility. So that's an example of a tight front. What this also does is it limits, because Tennessee likes to do a lot of outside zone in terms of their attack. It limits the stretch blocking, because it's hard sometimes if you're attacking this way, he's going to try and attack here. Yes, you can get here if your tackle is good and he can reach and seal. If he can step, reach, and seal, fine. Step, reach, and seal, step, reach, and seal, step, reach, and seal. But 9 times out of 10, it's very difficult if you do not have a good offensive line. And then also, depending on the defenders, if he's lightning quick, it makes it hard for this tackle to do that. This also opens up the windows for, as I said earlier, defensive penetration, because if he's trying to reach and seal and he's in a 4-eye, he can do it. A lot of guards can do it, but if he's not overly quick and he doesn't have good lateral movement, this defensive end can fly right in, right off of this tackle's edge, this tackle's inside foot, and then he's getting penetration. Now, if the tackle tends to try and help out to help his teammate, this opens up the window for the jack linebacker to get back here into the backfield quickly. So again, these are just little games that you can play and ways that you can impact the blocking schemes. Ideally, with the outside zone, what you like to try and do is double team the nose tackle to get to second level, get a push here, and then one of these two, both are eyeing the second level linebacker. So if this linebacker comes here, he pops off, he stays on, and there you go. That's the block, and then it seals, allowing you to get outside. That's ideally some of the basic principles of what outside zone does to help you get to the outside, getting a double team, getting a push, and then getting movement right up the middle to get to the second level. Now, I also talked about the bear front. This is an example of a bear front. Almost the same principle, except the defensive linemen, defensive ends, defensive tackle are really in a 3-tech, because if you notice, he's on the outside shade. Now, before I said 2 is head up, 3 is always on the outside, 5 is on the outside, 7 is on the outside, and so on. And here does the same basic principle, except it's a little bit harder. There's not really much games to play. And then you're basically identifiable with who you're pretty much blocking. These two are then responsible for each corresponding gap. He's responsible for his gap. And then these guys are basically responsible for the outside shade. So again, that gives you the principles of how to attack the Tennessee Titans offense in terms of attacking the outside shade, attacking the outside zones, keeping the offensive linemen from working double teams, blocking one-on-one, which is what we hope for. Because if we utilize Ellis, if we utilize Leo Williams and Dexter Lawrence in running situations, that's to our advantage. You know, it really helps us in terms of controlling the front line. It allows us to get penetration, and then on the outside, the outside ends, outside backers, rush, however you want to categorize it, they just have to be able to not get hooked, not get washed, and then open up the alleys for the linebackers to scrape and flow, and also for safeties to come downfield and help fill out in the run support. So that's just a couple of things that I was looking at in terms of that. One of the things that I also found very interesting, because I was watching Martindale's interview, and he alluded to Derrick Henry being the modern day Jim Brown, and that's very high praise. Because back in the 50s, 60s, Jim Brown was the running back in that era. And he basically same principles, big running back, fast, strong, definitely could run over guys, also can make moves to be elusive. So I thought that was very interesting, that he alluded to that. He also talked to about the defense. That defense is a culture, which is why he, has some players that he wants to, or that was just recently signed to help teach the culture that he's looking to instill. So I found those two comments very interesting, and I really appreciate it. Now, the one that I really love, the one thing that he said that he's going to guarantee, and I'm going to read the quote. There's one thing I'll guarantee y'all. I don't know how good we're going to be, but we're going to run to the football and we're going to tackle people. If we start there, that then we have a shot. Sorry about that. That to me tells me what he's looking to do. He's looking to rally to everyone, the first man to get there, trying your hardest to, if you can't bring him down, grab cloth, hold on to him, and then everyone else, trust your teammates are flying to the ball to help you bring down the runner, whoever the runner is. In this case, we're talking about Derrick Henry. So, because we can't expect consistently one player to stop Derrick Henry. We do need all 11 hats to run to the football to bring him down. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be looking for on Sunday when the defense is on the field. You guys can also take an opportunity to follow along and look at that yourself. And, you see, do we maintain our gap integrity? Or some people will say, do we form a wall? Which is maintaining your gap, whichever way. Do we have good defensive penetration? And are we forcing Henry to run laterally? How do we tackle? Are we always trying to tackle high, or are we tackling the legs to try and stave off his momentum? What type of front are we in? Are we in a bear? Are we in a tight front? Do we mix it up? Those type of things. Like I said, I'll put the links to the Titans, the Cardinals, and Wink's interview, so you guys can take a look at it and you let me know what you think. So thanks again for tuning in today. In the comment section, make sure you leave me a comment. What do you think? What are your thoughts in terms of how we should attack Derrick Henry and the Tennessee running attack? Do you figure there's another way to attack it? Whether it's a 4-front, 4-2-5, 3-3-5, whatever. What do you think is the best way to attack Tennessee and their running attack? Okay. Again, I thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope you guys have the rest of your evening. You guys, I wish you all peace, love, and an enjoyable football time. And as I always say in closing, when it comes to sports, make sure you turn it on and turn it up. Have a good night.